All right, all right, all right. All right, here we are. Matthew McConaughey. How are you,
Drew,
buddy?
doing well, sir. Yourself?
Absolutely fabulous. I'm talking with yourself. First of all, thank you for the chat today. And second of all, thank you to you and the kids for joining me in the WWE Thunderdome on Raw the other week.
Checked in with you, man. Yeah, gave you a shout. You gave us a little point over there. Well played. Enjoyed that, man.
So the smile you see in my face when I'm reacting and I'm laughing, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. Everybody
Cool.
watches WWE. We've got Matthew McConaughey and his kids in the Thunderdome. So, have
Indeed,
you ever
man.
a fan of wrestling growing up? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah. No, I grew up in East Texas. And so in my years, late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s, I was, it was the Von Erichs, the Claw. It was my guy was Hackshaw Jim Duggan.
Oh yeah.
He'd come to the ring with the 2x4. Um, the Missing Link, Jimmy Superfly Snuka,
Were the Freebirds feuding with the
Freebird.
Barbarics during that time, by any chance?
Yeah, and there was it was King Kong Bundy, Skandar Akbar was the manager. There's a Hirsch Coliseum in Shreveport, Louisiana, is where we'd travel to go see the matches. I got kicked out of Hirsch Coliseum
Oh
for
yeah.
pelting Skandar Akbar with rotten tomatoes. I snuck him with a bag of rotten tomatoes and just slathered him. And they thought that had gone too far. I got kicked out, snuck back through the bathroom window, and then later in the night got down front. And I remember
Goodness, I want to see where this is going.
King Kong Bundy.
That and King Kong Bundy.
Not on King Kong. He was not happy either.
Oh my goodness, that's great. I mean, that's the ultimate compliment to a bad guy wrestler. If somebody is willing to sneak in Rotten Tomatoes, then sneak back in the window and spit on you, you should be taking that as a compliment. He did his job well.
Oh, geez. Yeah, so I've always liked it.
So why? Why do I write the book? Tell us about it. Where'd you get the idea? Where'd it come from? You secluded
So
yourself. What I remember reading.
I've been keeping journals and diaries for 36 years. Ever since I got 14 years old, I started writing things down. When I was 14, I went to my journal to write things down because I was lost, lonely, and trying to figure stuff out. Why do I got so many pimples? Why did Gretchen break up with me? That kind of stuff. Adolescent questions. And then I kept keeping a journal, and I noticed in my early 20s where I was sort of catching green lights in my life, meaning my relationships were healthy. I was making my grades at school. I had a job. I had some money in my pocket. I was rolling. I was kind of looking forward to Monday morning. Things were going well, which is a green light. And I remember noticing that I'd slowed down and not been writing in my diary because I was happy. I was on my frequency. Things were going well. And I remember telling myself, you better write things down now while you're feeling successful, because you may run into times later on in your life when you don't feel successful or you're into a hardship, and you'll be able to go back and look at where you were and what you were doing, what your habits were when you were successful. And damn if that didn't prove that to be true. I got in a rut again in life, which we all do from time to time. And I was able to look at the habits of who was I hanging out with? Where was I going? What was I eating? What was I drinking? How much sleep was I getting? How was I greeting the day when I felt like I was on my frequency, catching green lights? What was I doing then? And by reading what I was doing when I was successful, I was able to recalibrate and help myself get back on track in times of my life where I was off track. So I went away and said, hey, let's go see what all those tens of thousands of pages of diary entries are and journal entries are. And I came out with this book, Green Lights. And look, it's based on the reason there's three green lights there is that, we love green lights in life. They say go, freedom, carry on. We do not like the red and yellow lights in life. They slow us down. They make us stop. They intervene. They make us turn around. They are a slap in the face, a death in the family, a sickness, a hardship. But eventually, I do believe that the red and yellow lights, hardships in our life do turn green in the rearview mirror, meaning there's a lesson in every single hardship that we have. We may not notice it at the time. We may not notice it till next week. We may not notice it until our deathbed, but there's a lesson in every single hardship that we got. And that means that those yellow and reds eventually will turn green in our life.
It's interesting, like reading the book. How would you like it described? You don't like to call it like a self-help book or an
No,
advice book.
it's an approach. I think it's an approach, a perspective book. I mean, You've had, I read where you came from. You ran into many red, yellow lights that some people would have let turn red, but you didn't let them turn red. You turned yellows into greens by sheer persistence. And you had a lot of pivots. You've been in, different federations, different groups. You traveled all over trying to get your career to evolve to where it is. But that was about persistence. You also pivoted at times and said, I'm gonna actually call an audible on this play and go somewhere else and do something else. So a lot of it's about perspective. I mean, some part of catching green lights in life is about not giving the damn yellow light crisis credit. Some of it's by going, look, because sometimes we get in a yellow light in our life and we dwell on the problem. And next thing you know, we're sunk in a red light and we're victimized and we're going, oh my God, boo-hoo me. And we're kind of paralyzed, stuck. When we got to catch ourselves sometimes when we hit that yellow light and go, no, I'm not slowing down for that yellow. I'm actually pressing the gas and blowing through it because I'm not going to give it any credit. And if I don't give it credit, it don't stick. And I'm turning that yellow green. So sometimes I find it's about that.
Well, thank you for doing the research and knowing a little bit about my story, because that's a big reason, like, the book spoke to me. As I started learning about, your views on the red and yellow lights, and how inevitably, you can start catching those green lights. And when I look back at the past few years and my journey of getting fired from WWE the first time, and I'm like, oh, that was a bit of a red light, but I didn't let it slow me down. I started pivoting, doing what I could, working hard, looking at myself honestly in the mirror, being accountable to myself and my actions, giving it my all, and inevitably working my way up to the point where I returned to WWE, became WWE champion.
Yep.
And a pandemic literally hit, no fans in the building, as I finally pulled off my live stream of being WWE champion. And I understood that your journey that brought you to here, all of those ups and downs and red lights and yellow lights, prepared you to be the one guy that can handle any situation to lead the company forward. And that's when I was like, man, okay, this book's really talking to me right now. And I think that for yourself, people look at it, maybe think, oh, Matthew McConaughey, good looking Hollywood actor. What have I got in common with him? How's this book going to speak to me? And I think you make yourself so relatable. You're so open. You put everything out there that anybody can read it and really get some inspiration from it.
Oh, cool, man. I'm glad that was my goal. Something I found in the writing of it was the more personal I got, the more of the scars I showed and the more vulnerable I said, look, lay it out there constructively. The more personal I got, the more relatable it got. The most gratifying thing with sharing the book is seeing how it translates to people. And people are able to subjectively go, no, I got this particularly from the book. And that makes me go, yes, cool.
Well, it's incredible how relatable you can be in there. And that's the big thing that touches the public. I found, I've been wrestling since I was 15, 35 now. I really didn't start connecting on a higher level with the public until 2019, where finally I stopped trying to play a character and I just started being myself, telling my real story, being vulnerable. I was a 6'5" Scottish angry hairy guy. It was just angry for no reason. And suddenly I started telling them the truth. I was like, hey, I'm a bit like you. I might look the way I look, larger than life guy, but I'm silly, I'm sarcastic, I'm goofy, I tell dad jokes, I'm not funny most of the time. Here's my real story of what I went through in life, all the ups and downs, and losing my mother that sent me on a crazy course in life, which ended up me getting fired the first time in WWE. I've been through a lot, and people said, wow, he's just like us, but when the bell rings, he kicks butt. And they started responding to me, and I was like, wow, the more I'm open, the more I'm honest, the more I'm Drew, the more they start going, wow, he's just like us, and they get louder and cheer and relate to me. And that's definitely what I found with your book. I start finding myself relating to you and going, wow, we've got a lot in common. And I think, and I don't think I know the public in general will check it out and go, wow, he's a lot like me. And I feel like I'm learning a lot of lessons in this to stay positive. And I think the timing is also pretty helpful for people in general with the situation we're in right now. Like, I think people could really benefit checking out the book during these difficult times.
Yeah, it's definitely some good news in a time when we don't know what news to trust. It's definitely something, it's got some tools in it that I think we can all rely on. It's got some values in it that I think we can all rely on. We're in a time right now, especially in America, where we have this extreme distrust in each other. We don't know who to believe. We don't know which leaders to believe. We don't know who's telling the truth. We don't know if the news is true, the news is false, and the other. And what I think happens is when we start to distrust other people, the slippery slope is there as we start to distrust ourselves. And then that's a recipe for trouble. We've got to start to build some social contracts between us again, where if we don't agree politically and we're of another denomination in church, we can agree on some certain values, and I can have some certain decent expectations of you as a man, you as a woman, you as a person, you as an American, and you should have those expectations of me. And we can disagree we can have a conversation without a condemnation. We can disagree on a policy, like I said, or a politics, but we can have a similar expectation of what it is we value and what we expect from each other as people, as Americans.
My wife and I actually listened to the audiobook, which is pretty cool. Right. Listening to you tell the story and how much you get into it and how descriptive you are. And you're such a storyteller. You talk about how you and the family used to sit at the table, kind of trying to outdo each other with the storytelling. That's kind of what drew me personally to wrestling. You know, WWE, wrestling in general, that's what it's all about. In the end, at its core, we're just good guys versus bad guys. We'll get conflict resolution, except our fights are solved by larger than life superstars in the ring. So like listening to you tell your stories on there is really cool. And I strongly recommend, if you're going to check out, you know, the book, get the audio version, because you paint quite the picture.
Well, I got to perform it, you know, in the audio book. It was one thing doing the written word, but to be able to perform it and play all those characters that I've run into along the way, I had a hoot of a time recording it, and I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, I mean, even listening to you talk about like your family, very like interesting. Like you don't hold back at all. It's awesome. You just get into all the details. You put it all out there. And remember certain parts that I couldn't quite relate to. You know, you're open about like some of the violence in the family growing up, and your mother and father, between you and your brothers, your dad, and the kids. And I remember when he was talking about your older brother, I believe, and the rite of passage, when they sat there one night, had some beers together. Inevitably, your dad wanted to fist fight him, took off the shirt, wrestling style as well. And they went to battle until your older brother knocked out the father. And the way you painted the picture, at first I couldn't understand. I didn't grow up that way. We're in a different time now. But in the end, when they were hugging, embracing at the end, something about it, the way you told that story, I had goosebumps. I was kind of jealous. I never had that moment with my father. It was interesting, the way you painted the picture, almost animalistic, like lions almost. Yeah. It was very interesting. And you paint quite the picture. By the end of that story, I legit had goosebumps.
Yeah, man, that's how, you know, it is a different generation. My dad, you know, I mean, born in what, 1929 or something. I mean, that's how he was raised. There were rites of passage, and the physical act. My dad was not a violent man. He didn't want to fight his sons. What he wanted were his sons to get to that day where they go, I will challenge you. And just that fact of accepting the challenge was when my dad would go, that's my boy. Come here. So he wasn't ever looking for the fight, but he just wanted us to be, hey, know that you're going to get out there. Life's going to be tough. Yeah, you can win things with your mind, but sometimes it may have to be physical. And it was about putting our ass on the line, I think, that made him go, okay, now part of my father is I've done well because you're ready to go out into the world. But it was about accepting that challenge that I think is the value that he was trying to instill in us.
Yeah. And again, when you fired up on the bouncer, like you're heading out the bar with your dad, all the guy did was put his hand on your dad and something snapped in you and you took him down and rained fists. I kind of reacted like, oh, like I'm waiting to see your dad's reaction, the way you paint the picture. And then that's when he was like, all right, Matthew's going to be okay. Yeah.
It was you know, I remember seeing that bouncer put his hand on my dad's chest. I can see it now in my eyes, slow motion. And something to me that was a major trespass. That was like, no, you put it back. And I didn't even think about it that long. I mean, as soon as I saw that hand and I remember his chin going down to look at the hand. And the next thing was going to be my dad was going to take care of the guy. But before my dad could even look up and go, what the? Next thing I know, I'm getting pulled off the guy 20 feet back in the bar. It was something. And then, you know, for my dad, I remember calling all his friends. Yeah, the youngest one's going to be okay. The mama's boy is going to be okay. Something about that was a rite of passage for him.
That's pretty cool. And one thing I skipped, like I don't do many interviews, you know, I've got my Drew and A thing going here. I'm kind of learning, you know, how to get a little bit better at it. And I thought to myself, I feel like I need to learn a warm up. I was watching Wolf of Wall Street the other day and I saw a little piece where you talked about how that's one of your warm up exercises.
Yeah.
Since I've got you right here, is there any chance you could walk me through?
Yeah, well, let's do it together. Here's what it is, and it can be any tune, but let's go ahead and do the Wolf of Wall Street one because it's a fun one. So before every take, before I go to work, anytime I'm nervous, right? Start just and you got to do it hard enough to where it kind of hurts and you kind of are getting out of your mind because you're going, geez. So it's got to be hard and deep enough to where you're not thinking. And this is all about getting things out of our mind and just getting in a rhythm, right? So, See, now already, are you more relaxed than you were a minute ago?
Way more relaxed than I was a minute.
And here's the other great thing about it. It gets the voice down, it gets you out of your head, and it has everyone around you going, has he lost his mind? Which is a good thing, because then we're forced to feel like, yes, I'm on an island here. Everyone thinks I'm the weirdo, and that's good. Because now I've got to survive on my own.
Oh, man, that's cool. I'm going to start doing that, especially backstage at WWE before I warm up for my matches. I'm just going to start breaking it out.
Break it out. And you'll see, because the other people be looking at you, and it's like, good, because you go into real survival mode, going like, oh, this is not an audition. It's on me right now. I better let it rip.
I mean, the thing about our job is, like, it's the same as in the acting world, and the more relaxed you are, the better the performance. And it's strange that we're out there live, kind of doing our live action stunts, etc. But if you're out there and you're tense and you're thinking too much, and the audience can see that in your eyes, there's a disconnect. They might not be able to verbalize it. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. Yeah. The more in the moment you are, and more in character they are, the more they can see in your eyes. You're feeling that moment. Then they start feeling that moment, and that's when you get a more successful character.
And any great performance, I think, has that. Every great performance, any athletic performance. You know, I'm an American football fan, especially college football. How do you find that freedom in the ring? How do I find that freedom when I'm on set? By being majorly prepared. So I can then go in and say, now I'm going to be in the moment and work on my instincts. Because if you're thinking in the ring, or if you're thinking about what the next move or what the choreography is, or if I'm thinking about the scene, or if I'm a football player and I'm thinking about what the read is on defense, the offensive player's already passed the football player by. I'm already out of the moment. You lose a connection with the audience. They can see you anticipating, and it's not a real connection. It's not playing as well on the proverbial field as we can if we're doing that. If we're thinking about it. We want to be. I always say this. I do my work before I show up on set. When I show up on set, I'm ready to play. Yep. If I've done my work, then I can play because I feel very confident and like going, no, I'm so prepared. I'm ready for anything. I'll call an audible, bring at me whatever you want. I'm in the moment.
Yeah. Pretty curiously, just like talking about things in general, like what's your views on social media? Like that's a place that so much negativity out there. Like, is that something you spend much time on? You dwell on?
I don't, but I think about it because I got kids.
Yeah.
You know, I got kids 12, 10, 7. You know, it's a great tool, social media, but at the same time, here's everyone's habit right now. We've got this habit. People on social media have this habit. And I think we should remind ourselves that this is not really a good habit. We so often on social media, if I put you down, that makes me feel like I pumped me up. I didn't do anything but put you down, but I got a little charge out of it. But I think what everyone's got to realize is that's short money. That is a short-term charge. You don't win in the long run. You don't really succeed or feel good about yourself by putting someone else down, by lowering someone else. You meaning you don't jump up and down and cheer when they miss the shot. You jump up and down and cheer when you make the shot. You know what I mean? So there's room, and now more than ever, here's where millennials, kids, so many of us, we create a product, a picture, something, and we send it out into the world, and we eagerly wait for everyone's response. And if they come back with too many thumbs downs or bad comments, my day's ruined. But if they come back with a bunch of thumbs up and yay comments, I'm having a great day. So we're way too dependable on people that we really don't know, and a lot of people who just want to say something bad and put you down anyway. So I just remind all the kids out there and many of us adults, hey, don't rely on seeking other people's approval for your own sense of self-significance and confidence. It's tough, man. You guys got it tougher than we did with all the social media. I mean, and also those of you out there commenting, I want you to remember this. Remember, whatever you say online today, it's going to outlive you. Do you want to be introduced as the person who said so-and-so or tweeted out so-and-so or commented so-and-so? Do you want to be introduced to that when later on in life? Because you will be. Your story is going to introduce you when you're gone. Think about it, and just think about things before we do it, and try to make sure you're not getting your own sense of confidence and value just from the external world. And it's tough. I'm not saying it's easy, but just try to be aware of that.
It's a great answer. It just popped in my head there. I was actually talking to Vince McMahon yesterday about this and social media in general, and I thought, who would have a really good view in this? Matthew McConaughey. So I had to make sure I got it in there. Everything you're saying is 100% true. Hopefully, especially during these negative times, people can start finding the positives and be a little more positive and start putting more positivity out there. So negativity only breeds negativity, obviously. So positivity and your positivity.
And to be able to disagree without condemning the other person. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to have judgment and to like this thing over this thing, but have a reason why. And a lot of people right now don't know necessarily why they're in this tribe or that tribe, but they only know that, well, I don't want to be in that tribe. I don't know why I'm in this one, but I know I don't want to be in that one. And once again, it's not really defining the affirmative of what is it that you believe in. I ask this question all the time. I said, look, I think a great question for us all to ask, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. Look in the mirror and say, I value what? Just answer that question. It'll change over time. If you don't have kids, the things you value now are different than when you do have kids. If you're not married or have a significant other, the things you value now will be different than they will be later on. And it's okay that they change. But in a world where, especially America, where we tell you have value or you get respect or you are deemed successful if you're rich and famous. And I got nothing against rich and fame. I happen to be rich and famous. I have nothing against that. But is that my two highest values that I'm chasing? Is that how I got rich and famous? By chasing rich and fame? No. And like I say, while I don't, apologize or I'm not boo-hooing money or fame, we could rearrange what we are teaching our children and ourselves to value every day in our lives, what to pursue. I remember this is a cool one. I win Best Actor for Dallas Buyers Club. I get the trophy. I come home. My kids go, what'd you get the trophy for? And I went, well, do you remember a year and a half ago when Popeye was going to work and you told me I looked like a giraffe and I was so skinny and all that stuff? And they go, yeah.
There's a commitment for that role.
Yeah, it was. And so I go, well, that work that I was doing when I was gone all day, here a year and a half later, my peers deemed that work excellent and gave me a trophy for it. And they went, oh, so you can do something today that'll give you a reward tomorrow? I was like, exactly. And that's a cool one for us to remember, that we engineer our green lights, man, through our choices, through work ethic, preparation, how we treat each other, fairness. We can engineer green lights for us. And I know how it is. When you're young, you think you're gonna live forever. You're not thinking about tomorrow. But just try and think about that. Everybody out there who can, just try and think that, oh, you know what? Can I make some choices today in my own life that I will look forward to looking back at how I was and who I was and how I treated myself and how I respected myself and I respected others. It's a pretty cool thing to do, and it's fun.
Yeah, advice machine. So a heck of a dad. That was always like one of your dreams, to be a father.
Yeah, you know what it was? My dad was a big sirs and ma'ams guy, right? So when I would shake my friends of my father's hands and say, nice to meet you, sir, nice to meet you, sir, nice to meet you, sir. I remember when I was 8 years old, in my 8-year-old mind, my dad had told me you're shaking their hand because they're elders and you respect elders. But also in my mind, I went, oh, the common denominator of all these men I'm saying sir to is that they're fathers. So I was like, oh, that's how you become a sir. You become a dad. So I remember that day going, the only thing I know I want to be in life is a dad. And still have the utmost reverence for that, for the role, you know. And now having kids, I know that it's not just helping make the baby, it's the years after of trying to raise and shepherd your kids to be, you know, the young men and women they'll be. That hopefully will be my greatest achievement.
So what you're saying is kids are a good idea. Got my wife right over here. We don't.
What'd she say?
She can hear you.
What's she saying? What's she saying?
She's looking at me, waiting for your response. So you reckon we have some kids? I'm 35. She's just coming up 29 now.
And here's the other thing about having kids. That's when parents become immortal. That's what thing can we leave behind? What, talk about a green light? What, that's a solar powered green light. You're passing on your lineage that you made together, that you helped create and form together, and then they go off in the world. And hopefully, as mothers and fathers, we move on before our kids do, so they can pass it on, and maybe they can have kids, and all of a sudden, generations. Whew, that'd be incredible.
Selling me on it. I don't know what she's thinking right now. We've been practicing hard for 7 years, so maybe.
But, and it's easier for us. It's easier for the dads.
Yeah. All right, we'll come back to that one.
Okay.
All right. Well, you achieved so much success at such a young age. So what were the kind of biggest challenges you had to overcome, you know, throughout your journey?
Sometimes crisis of confidence, feelings of insignificance. It's sometimes hard to know who we are and what we want to do, what we want to be. So I say give ourselves a break sometimes and say, okay, if I don't know what it is I want to do or who I want to be, let me eliminate the crap in my life that I know is not what I want to be. You ever done that? Or like if you couldn't get what you wanted, you said, well, I'm just going to eliminate this stuff because I know that's not what I want to be or do.
It took a long time to get there. That's why I'm kind of curious. So you've always managed to stay the course throughout your career, at least public perception wise. And I kind of crashed and burned a few times throughout my 20s, made some bad decisions. And it wasn't until I got fired, basically, that I really started going, okay, what do I need to improve about myself to start succeeding? Wrestling wise, I kind of knew what to do. My wife was a big part of the becoming a better man aspect. And she working together, we knew like pushing out the negative aspects of my life, looking at myself honestly, her looking at me honestly, just changing a lot of things, which improved me as a man, which in turn improved me as a performer, which brought me back to WWE champion.
Do you, not to say, oh, you got to crash and burn to get what you want, but what value, do you get any green light assets out of the crashing and the burning now that you look back at it?
Oh yeah, now that I look back on it, like the lessons that it taught me, I think I had to be humbled for a start. I had to be appreciative. I got a lot of things at a young age and I wasn't as humble, appreciative, as hardworking as I could be. Because of those opportunities that I got so young, I took them as a given. Now, every day I'm so thankful that everything that comes my way professionally and personally, and without all those ups and downs and lessons, I certainly wouldn't be the man I am today.
Dude, I hear you. I've had those times earlier on. As I said earlier, when you're young, you think you're going to live forever. And when I went back through the book, there were certain things through my diaries. I was like, boy, there's going to be things I'm ashamed of. There's going to be things that I'm embarrassed about. There's going to be times where I'm going to go like, oh, you arrogant little SOB. Who do you think you were? And all those are true. A lot of the things that I thought I'd be embarrassed about, I did end up laughing at. A lot of things I thought I'd be ashamed at, I ended up going, well, you've already forgiven yourself for that. But a lot of the things that I was going like, oh, you were an arrogant, you know what, right there. I ended up going, but you know what? If you wouldn't have been so arrogant, you wouldn't have had the foolish confidence, foolish arrogance to put yourself in the position to fail. So, and because every time after I had moments in my life where I was like, oh, you were so arrogant, such an arrogant know-it-all, I immediately put myself in a position where I failed and the world came crashing. I was like, oh, no, you're not a know-it-all. Oh, you didn't know. Oh, touche on you, but I wouldn't have put myself in those positions if I wouldn't have been the arrogant little SOB that I was at the time. So sometimes that arrogance can put us in a position where to learn the lesson that, oh, I didn't know everything I knew. And if I wasn't so arrogant, I would have had the confidence to maybe jump in that proverbial ring, Yeah,
absolutely. You learn a lot from those yellow and red lights, like you say. I remember at one point you actually talking about your father's death. somehow being a green light. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So major red light in my life, August 17th, 1992, when I got the call from my mom and said, your dad died. I'm 21. I thought he was the abominable snowman. I didn't think that nothing could kill him. So what happened with him when I write in the book about how that became a green light, what I mean is this: it was an absolute red light, him dying. But the green light that came out of it was I had been kind of relying on him as my crutch, that even subconsciously that, if I stumble and fall, Dad's got my back. He's above government and law. He's my crutch. If I really need him, I've got this crutch back here, which was true. But as soon as he moved on, it became evident that, oh, you don't have a safety net. You don't have a crutch. Those values that your dad's been trying to instill in you, that you've been kind of half-assing, Matthew, now you better either take them on and own them and make them part of your habits and daily activity, because you ain't got somebody to back you up. And so I remember his moving on. Years after that, I started to notice how I gained more courage, more confidence, more integrity. And so those were some green light assets of his moving on. I wouldn't say that it made his death a green light, but that red light of his death did reveal the green light assets in my life that I wouldn't have gotten unless he had passed away.
Interesting. My wife and I talked about, that briefly, and she asked me, is there anything you can find in that from your mother passing and any potential green lights? And I don't think about it too much. I always saw it as a red light, and it's hard to even think about and talk about. But when I really think about it, the kind of woman like she was, and tried to instill in me, she grew up with a disability. She made it seem perfectly normal to my brother and I. Like, she was basically unable to walk, used walls to balance, was so hard working, had such a never give up attitude, and tried to, like, even if she wasn't saying it, clearly instill it in me by her actions. And there's a time in my life where I wasn't applying that. It wasn't after she passed and I was outside the company that I didn't realize I was finally applying everything she'd been teaching me growing up. I became the hardest worker in the world. I wouldn't give up. I would just make no excuses for anything. She was told she'd never have kids. She had me and my brother. She had this disability. It made life normal. Just would never give up. And suddenly I found myself finally like acting like my mother when she was gone. And that was just in this conversation with my wife, her trying to ask me, there must be something there. And I just wouldn't look at it. Now that we're talking, I'm just thinking out, like in my head now, I feel like I should say it out loud that there was some green lights there, as much of a red light as actually is.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool to hear. I mean, when I say, red lights eventually turn green, I'm not denying, nor do I think any of us should, none of us should say, oh, that denies the crisis, that denies the hardship, that denies the red light. It's not denying it. It's just, there's a lesson in it that we can learn, and what are the two ways to look at it? I mean, I think it's healthy for us to try and find something constructive for us in every situation, even no matter how hard it is. And again, sometimes we notice the lesson tomorrow, next week. Sometimes we're probably going to notice it on our deathbed. Sometimes, Drew, we may not notice it in this lifetime. Our kids may find out what the lesson was next generation. You know what I mean? I don't know.
All right, man. Like, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I want to make sure I can check if you get any one last pearl of wisdom. You're full of it for our WWE universe out there.
Yeah, sure. Hey, here we come out of 2020, going into 2021. Everyone's looking forward to that date, January 1, 2021, so we can put 2020 in the rearview mirror. But let's remember, it's just a date on the calendar. We got work to do. We gotta look out for ourselves, look at it for each other. I think we gotta catch and create more green lights for ourselves and for each other. Let's remember to respect ourselves and each other so we can start trusting ourselves and each other again, and build forward and into tomorrow, because we got work to do. So let's break a sweat and enjoy doing it.
Thank you, Matthew. Make sure everyone check out Green Lights. Read the regular book he's got right there, or check out the audiobook, for goodness sake. Such a storyteller. You've heard him today. He's unbelievable on the audiobook. Check it out. Thank you, mate. Hopefully see you in the Thunderdome again. I mean, things get back to normal. I'd love to see you in person.
Perfect. And listen, probably none of my business what you might be getting up to with your wife who's behind the camera there when this podcast is over. But good luck.
All right, all right.
All right, all right, all right.
All right, we're gonna practice at least tonight. Thank you, brother.
There we go. All right, John.
Take care.
You too.